Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to our monthly webinar. So we're up to September already. So for those who haven't met before, my name's Jeevan. So a bit of housekeeping, like always. So today's session will be recorded. So if you do need access to the recording at a later date, it is available or will be emailed to all attendees. All of our previous recordings are available there on BGL's YouTube channel, and a copy of today's slides will be emailed to all attendees as well. If you've got any questions at any stage, please enter them there into the Q&A panel. And we've got several BGL team members who have signed in and ready to answer those questions. And Aaron and I will come and ask any questions at the end. So first of all, I'll be covering a BGL update. And then, like always, I'm joined by CEO and co-founder of Smarter SMSF, Aaron Dunn. Welcome, Aaron.
G'day, Jeevan. How are you?
Very good. How you doing?
Not too bad, thank you. Got a little bit to cover today. Obviously, an update on the never-ending saga that is Division 296. So we'll give people the current lay of the land, which has become quite fascinating where we are currently at, and a lot of the sort of the fights and stuff that happened pre-election last time. We kind of seem to be falling back into that, even though Labor really only need the Greens to get this through. It seems to be a much harder process to get this finalised than it first seemed. So anyway, I'll give everyone an update, and naturally, as we always do, some of the great work that we've been doing within our own platform, and obviously in connection with your team at BGL as well.
Yep. And I suppose, as I said, it's scary that it's September and it's final seasons for, the main football codes. And unfortunately, neither of our sides are in there. So,
No, no, yet again.
yeah, no surprises though.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's jump into the BGL update. We've got, so first of all, I guess with, in terms of Simple Fund 360 and Simple Invest 360, there was an update that went out there on the 4th of September. Our next one's going out next Wednesday. So we've, with the public holiday in Melbourne, we've doing it a day earlier than normal. Okay, so first of all, there is BGID. So BGID has obviously been implemented earlier this year, and we've made some changes or improvements around there. So if anyone, wrong side. So for anyone who doesn't know what BGID is, it's BGL's solution there for the KYC and AML laws that are being implemented. With the BGID solution, I'm not going to cover, what it is in a lot of detail because we've done that previously. Also on our YouTube channel, there is a 1 hour webinar that covers all the ins and outs, and also in terms of the legislation, what the changes are that are coming in for, especially the accounting industry. So if you haven't already, regardless of whether you're going to use BGID or not, it's still suggested that you watch that webinar so you're aware of the legislation changes and what needs to come through and be done. So a lot of that is obviously going through and identifying your clients and knowing who they are. So jumping across now into Simple Fund 360, if you go down to the contact screen, what you're able to do down there, a couple of changes that we have made is you now have the ability there to export all the IDs that you have done out to single Excel and PDF there. If we go and find a contact, so I'll go and find myself here. So if you go into a contact itself, what's wrong one? Contact itself, a couple of things there. You can see how I've got there, got a pending change. But down below here, a couple of things. If you're sending out an initial request for an ID, these are the options here. So you can see obviously the standard one there is the Australian government ID. You've got a government ID option there with reverse news, and you've got one with biometrics added as well. So the reverse news is really those for example, on company boards or in the political scene that you want to see, obviously, across news databases, any negativity, etc. So with those requests, they're done obviously using government IDs, and you are given a report back at the end. None of the IDs are kept and are destroyed straight away. So we're not we're trying to avoid obviously some of the scams in the past. One of the new features we've added there is this compliance tab. So this one can be completed as I haven't gone through the process, but we have added the ability there to void the actual request and go through. You can see now it goes back to its default option. And then if I go through and actually do the request, it'll go and send that out. And that what that'll do is actually send out an email in that particular case. So that compliance will let you know what's actually taken place in terms of the status. You will also be able to download the ID report directly from there as well. Okay, so the next one we've added there is around property dashboards. So for anyone who missed this earlier this year, I'll cover maybe the ins and outs there. So if you go across there to your property dashboard, obviously listing of the property. So the property dashboard itself was all updated earlier this year. And what we added as part of that is the ability to send out invoices. So what you see there on the right-hand side is invoice dashboards. And I guess the purpose this was actually built for initially was ability where, especially the for commercial properties where they're self-managed in terms of the lease agreements, and the trustees want to issue invoices here directly from the software. So if I go into one that's already created here, the particular invoice, you can go in, obviously put in particulars for the invoice as you see on the left-hand side, have the ability to generate all the particulars so you can see it's taking place. And now what we've added is the ability to, actually if I revert that to draft. Okay, so you've got the ability to edit in particulars, add the notes, and now we've got the ability to approve that and actually send that out. And now one of the features we've added in here is the ability to actually email that out to the actual the people, obviously the lessees that are leasing the properties, and actually send that out email directly. And then you can obviously preview the email that's sent out, copy yourself in, etc. That's actually been invoiced out. You'll be able to see the statuses and things that are occurring there. And you can also make those, I think we're actually, I can't remember if that's been added in now or going to be added in the next release, is the ability to make those reoccurring at the same time going through. Obviously the prior invoices can be viewed here, and when if you do have a bank feed for the bank account, when the amount comes in, it will automatically match to this amount here in terms of the expected rent coming through. So have a look at that as it does come through. What we've also added in terms of the properties, in terms of valuations too. So you can see in terms of requesting the valuer, if I go into the providers, we've kicked off with one, but we're allowing the actual valuers now to actually straight back into Simple Fund 360 or Simple Invest 360, so that you're not having to update the values as well. Okay, so next change there is for the entity dashboard. So I'll jump back across to my dashboard. It's wrong one. So for the dashboard, obviously the tiles and everything are the same, but what we've now changed is where the user, so for example, if you're giving access to your client or an advisor, if they don't have access to a particular screen, so in this example, let's say they don't have access to the fund relationships or the connections, that tile will be hidden there. So, you know, example, that one there, if I go into user roles, so let's say for here I've got a custom client one. If the fund relationships there is disabled, they won't see the fund relationships. If things like the connections is disabled, they won't see that. So there's that real sort of tie in between terms of the user's access and what they can and can't see. Okay, so next one is AI assistant. So again, a bit of a recap for those who haven't seen this priorly. So jumping back again to into Simple Fund 360. So for those unaware, we've added several AI assistants over the course of this year. And basically every update that we roll out, I would say ongoing, there'll always be sort of updates to this as it goes through. First one here, for those who haven't seen before, on the toolbar top, once you actually select an entity, you'll be able to obviously generate the AI assistant. So I'm just going to drag that and make it full screen. And these is it six AI assistants we've got are there below, and as you can see and go through. So the AI assistants have various functionalities, and I'll explain that as we go through. So here, this first one, ATO Assistant, this one here doesn't look at any data within BGL. It's simply indexed and connecting through to the ATO website and giving you appropriate responses. So if I, for example, I'll put in something that's not there, explain division 7A. So what this will go do is go send that request, and this could be a client facing request, or I've got this particular scenario with a client. Please provide the relevant sources or links. And what it'll do, it goes to the ACO website, finds relevant information for you, and actually provides you the link there directly to the ATO website. So as you can see here, this one here is now searching for Div 7A. Looking at obviously the relevant pages. Obviously this one might not be the best request because it's a lot of pages on the ATO website, but it provide the obviously relevant ones to bring through and then request accordingly. While that's actually taking place, I'll go through the next one, which is the BGL system. So that one is being utilized on a fund specific or entity specific request. So what it actually does in that particular case, so here we go, we've loaded now. So you can see here, it's done the actual request. It's explaining the key points here for Div 7A. And then you can see it's given the relevant ATO links there that I could actually click on and go to those pages. What you can actually see we actually do as part of that is we actually suggest what the next questions or responses next. So you can actually, if you obviously, just like using the likes of say ChatGPT or other Gen AI engines, if you click on those responses, it will automatically ask those questions going through there. Let's go across to the BGL assistant. So this one is really designed to be fund specific. So it's looking at details of the fund and going through and actually, generating there. So let's look at something like this one here, where we can actually, look at all the concessional contributions or anything like that. So, go through the first example here, we can actually go through, and what we've actually done with this assistant is added more context. So in the recent updates, added the ability to get information around pensions and the likes, and I think any of the beneficiaries as well. So we're bringing through some more bits of data there as we do go through. With that one, it will actually obviously look at the data in the database, send it off to the Gen AI engine, bring the responses back, and then you've got obviously the responses and things coming through. So even the likes with this, where you can see here, this is even linking to the ATO and giving you ATO and relevant information. And then also what you can do with some of these the bottom vote is ask what if scenarios. So here I could say for this one is lower, so I'd say what is Lois's current balance? So excuse my poor typing. So that'll obviously should be hopefully a quicker response. So it's going to go through and do that. Oh no, so I'll grab that one through. But the information there, and then you can actually go through after let's see why the one's failed. But what it can actually do then is go through and you can actually use what if scenarios. So the example is you would like Lois's balance to be $3 million at age 65. What's the types of contributions she needs to make to make that? So those what if scenarios can be done and charted up, etc. I won't go through and demo the rest, but you've got here the Global Investment Assistant, which is obviously looking across your entire client base. So show me those funds that invest in crypto. Show me all the funds that have property. Show me all the funds that have property and what's the value date. So you've got heaps of different analysis there. The next one here is the AI financial analysis. This one looks at the balance sheet, operating statement, and cash flow statement. It gives you analysis and provides the relevant information. So you can see here in this case, I clicked on the prompt, which is the 3 years. It's actually telling you there on screen what it's actually doing. So you can see it's given each of the financial years. It's getting the reports of what it's actually looking for, fetching that data, and then it's actually going to perform the analysis. Where we're seeing this one used out there in practice is a lot of practitioners are actually using this and using it as part of the conversation that they're having there with their clients. So it could be getting not the whole bit of information, but the relevant points that they would like to discuss there with the clients, and it's actually prompting further discussion. So you'll be able to see there that when it goes through, it provides relevant information going there. So you can see there the insights going through there. The next one here is global analytics. So this one here, as you can see, a few different ones. It could be showing the member balances for all funds in the years, or it could be giving me a list of every single entity that I have and what's their SmartDocs email address. So if you'd like to utilize that. The last one we've got there, which has been enhanced, and it's probably a good tie in there with Aaron's first slide, is obviously for Div 296. So you can actually go through and do a Div 296 calculation. So you can actually see here, this one's done it for both members, given what the sort of percentages, etc. As well as do other things. So if I go to new chat here, so I go back, you can do things like project the next 5 years, assuming this, and actually calculate what the tax is. So for those clients you have that are, I suppose, affected by the proposed tax, you can actually see what the impact is immediately with those calculations. So they're tools that are being used. We're rolling out more and more assistants, and what we plan to do is at some stage this year is actually amalgamate these into one assistant. So you're just interacting with one assistant, and then you can ask the relevant questions there accordingly. Okay, in terms of the coming soon section, so we've got a new members screen, which we hope is coming out in our, not on the 24th, but the update following. So that will then consolidate, as you can see there, with the sub tabs, all the the current members list, pensions, dashboard, contributions dashboard, all in one particular tabs, as you can see there. And we'll have a lot more information than the prior ones, and obviously a lot cleaner interface. So that hopefully should be available soon. For the BG update, that's it. So I'll pass over to Aaron.
Excellent. Well, Jeeves, thank you. Yeah, your timing was very good there on the Division 296 with the AI bit, because as I stated at the very beginning, this has reached a really interesting point. So to kind of backfill, we have been going with this since February of 2023. So it gives you some context as to how long we've been dealing with government in terms of this proposing to become law, both initially as an announcement and then into a bill under the previous government. And of course, that Treasury bill that you can see at the very beginning there lapsed as a result of the election being called. Now, that was, in theory, a result of the crossbench senators voting as a bloc that defeated that. Now, the likelihood of this then going through was obviously enhanced quite substantially off the back of the fact that Labor controlled the House and then only needed the support of the Greens in the Senate. Now, the language over the last month or so appears to have changed quite dramatically with Labor, to the extent that the Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, in some commentary sort of said, oh, well, we're now actually not in that much of a hurry to get these measures in place, which appeared quite contrary to obviously the communication that we'd had historically. And Jeevan and I were having a discussion even just before we jumped on, trying to identify, well, is there one particular thing that has occurred that has changed the language of Labor and what they're ultimately doing? And the short answer here is there's not. But the reality is it's the mounting number of concerns that have happened. And those concerns, whether they are technically from the things like the unrealized gains and the lack of indexation, that in itself has now been coming from various areas of industry, coming from former prime ministers, coming from even APRA regulated superannuation CEOs and the like, that all of these things have been filtering back into the backbench of Labor, which then had concerns around the fact that it would impact their ability going into the next election. Quite clearly, with the government having done a roundtable recently, that whole area of productivity and aspiration, this goes to the core of that, or goes against the core of that, I should say. We've also had confirmed that Labor has not even approached the Greens in respect to that support at this period of time. So what we do know now, and I think, Jeevan, we were saying that we saw judges talking about a constitutional challenge as well. So the Senator Bragg, who is a coalition senator, recently tried to request some information under the Freedom of Information Act. He was provided some commentary from Treasury, but most of that was redacted. But in essence, what they have admitted is that they are revisiting these, or are actively working on these measures at the moment. So what that means is the bill that we currently have, or the bill that we had in play, that what a lot of the discussion has been going on about, is going to change from the current position. And again, this is a really important lesson for us to ensure that we don't go too early with these things. It is like we saw with the stage 3 tax cuts, the fact that these things can change very quickly in the halls of Canberra. So whilst you will be utilising the AI assistance that BGL have and having the discussions with the clients, we don't want to be executing on these things, because in the majority of instances here, those clients that take money out with balances above $3 million are not going to be able to get that money back in. And it will be a PI field day for those that are dealing with LORE rather than LAW. And that's one thing that is crucial here, that we only act once we know something is law. So the idea here is that Treasury is still talking about the fact that they expect it to become law at some point in time. They expect that there should be time required to implement this. So there was a lot of discussion about whether this would be backdated to when the intended legislation was, of the 1st of July 2025. I know, Jeevan, you commented earlier about the fact that there are a number of additional items that needed to be added into the SMSF annual return that we haven't seen as well. So there's some technical aspects and then logistical or practical aspects that we need to work through at this point. So when will we see something? We don't know. There are two ways that we could see this, because the government is going to need to potentially reformulate the budget as a result of any changes that they make. So we could have it in the MyFO, which is the mid-year economic update, which occurs around November. Otherwise, we may then see something in the budget next year. So at this point in time, the communication to the clients is just hold fort, work through things based upon the overall financial position of the clients, but certainly don't pull the trigger early, because there seems to be a fair bit still to play out. So that is the current status. As frustrating as it is, we can take it as a win equally, because at this point in time, we don't have anything, where the alternative was ultimately it was going to be in play. In terms of what else is happening, there are a couple of other expected rulings that we are waiting on to be finalised. Now, one is around the now enforced non-arm's length expenditure rules, so that create a non-arm's length income arrangement. So these ultimately follow on from the introduction of the measures that apply a 2 times multiple to non-commercial arrangements, where where the general expenses, ultimately that fund, have not been dealt with at arm's length. So a perfect example there would be say, accounting fees, where a commercial arm's length dealing might be $5,000, and those services are ultimately provided to that fund at no cost because it's done within the firm, let's say. And if that's found to be non-commercial, so there can be circumstances such as where there's a policy in play, then that difference between what was charged and what should have been charged is applied at a multiple of 2. So 5,000 equals 10,000, and then that is taxed at the non-arm's length rate. That's really not the main concern now. A lot of it is around the specific expense requirements. We are expecting, as I said, for the ATO to finalise this ruling. It was mid-year, it was June, which is kind of the same thing. It's now saying September. There's only 14 days left in September, so we will wait and see what transpires there. But just keep tabs around the updates there, because we will see some substantial change in that particular ruling. The other one is around our contributions ruling. Again, a lot of this is off the back of the fact that it's linking to the non-arm's length expense requirements and the non-arm's length income rules. So there are a number of items in here that are being updated in respect to that. We have same timeframes around the finalisation of these matters being September. But importantly, items such as in-specie contributions. So if we are transferring, say, some listed shares into a fund or business or a property, we need to be very specific now around the documentation that we put in place. That standard transfer form needs to reflect the entire value. And then if we are looking to maybe make a part payment and then part of it as a contribution, we need to ensure that we've appropriately documented all of that. Otherwise, the ATO will deem the amount to be a non-arm's length expense and permanently taint both the income and then capital gain of that particular asset. So the flexibility that we had historically around calling the difference between the transfer and the amount that was paid as a contribution is not quite as simple as that. There are a number of extra steps that we need to do to ensure that we avoid the non-arm's length expense or non-arm's length income rules applying in that situation as well. So they're probably the two main items that we're waiting on some further clarification. And as we touched on last month, we've seen the ATO update their tax ruling around when a pension commences and ceases. Just a few things that we've been doing in Smarter SMSF from a document standpoint. And this, for those that have sort of followed the story with the legacy pensions, we had a set of regulations that were introduced into Parliament, and they started in 7th of December 2024, and in essence provided a 5-year amnesty for these. Now, these weren't a bill, these were regulations that required a period of disallowance. So what does that mean? It means that any senator, any representative within Parliament could actually object to these, but they have 15 sitting days in essence that we need to work through. We've now completed those 15 sitting days because of the fact that we had an election in between. So we had some before and some after. So what that now means is those regulations that we saw drafted in December, they are now removed, and the actual law itself that was updated in both the Tax Act and the SIS Act and SIS regulations are now in full effect. So we've had to make changes within our deed to ensure that that is reflected. And what we've also done recently is we've made some further changes around our failed pensions. There's been a lot of discussion in industry. So if we have a situation whereby someone fails the pension in a particular year, say, let's say last financial year, you only work that out in September now, the rules require that commutation naturally needs to occur. The conscious commutation would need to occur today. And there's a question of fact as to whether there would need to be a pro rata in this period before that commutation occurs. So our view is that you wouldn't need to do that, but it does come down to the terms and conditions of how the pension is constructed. So again, we've made some changes. We've added some specific terminology into our pension documentation around the obligations under a failed pension prior to commutation. And we've also incorporated some additional requirements, again, consistent with the ATO's views for a pension rollback, or i.e. a full commutation, that just ensures that that decision that has been made is a conscious decision by the member that provides the instruction to the trustee to do so. We're also at the moment working on a number of other documents we're adding in there. One is around a bare trust vesting deed. So that is collapsing the trust once that asset has been sold or transferred from a custodian back into the SMSF. Not all arrangements, any sort of good bare trust arrangement wouldn't need a vesting of the deed, but we do see that in the marketplace in terms of some providers. So we're actually building that out within our document suite. We're seeing auditors ask a lot more questions around the documentation as part of that cessation or completion of the LRBA arrangement. We're also getting a lot more inquiry around incapacity with clients. So we've added a number of documents that deal with this area where an enduring power of attorney is appointed. And our last one we're working on at the moment is around a change of trustee with individuals. So, and that appointment of an individual there as well. So the final couple of updates we've done in here. One is when people do an ABN TFN through our platform, one of the statuses with the ATO is that it's under review. So there is a situation where the ATO will spend some time looking at that application before ultimately approving that. So just as we've done with our Smarter Legal Review, you can see there we just use a traffic light system that highlights that it is subject to manual review at this time, and then we will update that status at that particular point once that has been done. Otherwise, you'll be able to use the reference number that is available there as well. You can see there's a number of other things that we've done from a features point of view. Again, looking in capacity sense, adding an other option for members that may be under a legal disability that are drawing a pension, so that the signatories are different to who the member is. We've done some additional validation in our SMSF forms, and also rolling out our custom cover pages as well. I think the final thing I just wanted to highlight here, and I've done a lot of work with Jeevan, Anthony and his team, is we are going through the work around utilising BGL's existing DocuSign integration. So what we're enabling here, which we'll be shortly releasing, is the ability for you, once you've completed a particular document, you'll be able to push that document, as you can do already, back into Simple Fund 360, and then use the custom reports area to enable you to have that document and other documents signed by clients using DocuSign. And the final one is we're doing a fairly substantial upgrade to our documents using a tab structure. You can see just that on the bottom of the screen there. We're doing that off the back of some improvements around time saving. Also, sometimes we see when people go back and forward in the documents, it improves the integrity of the data staying on that form. So we'll look to share some more of that in the next month or so. So I guess, as you can see, there's plenty going on at the moment. And just a reminder as well, our courses are available within the BGL Learning Channel as well. So if you or your team want to find out more about getting your knowledge up to date, you can jump into BGL's Learning Channel, and we have both our Essentials and Foundations courses there available to use. And importantly, as an accredited educator with the SMSF Association, any students that complete these courses, you do get access to a complimentary period of membership with the SMSF Association up to 12 months.